So today I want to talk about healing from after we leave our trauma bonded, codependent, abusive relationship, love addict, love avoidant, tango relationship. Essentially, then what to do. We have the choice to either trauma bond again because we just feel that we need love and belonging and attention, and what we actually are desiring is to give that to ourselves and do our shame reduction work, which is the other option. So trauma bond again and repeat the mistake, repeat the cycle, not learn from it, or we can turn within and heal. But what is that healing? How long does it take? What does it entail? And what's the journey? So essentially going within, it's not easy. It's developing self-compassion, and it takes a lot of intention and a lot of focus and dedication and commitment, intimacy, into me I see, and a very safe space to heal in, where we're not being attacked or have non-generous assumptions placed on us and judgments from other people. So, a lot of times if our trauma bonded codependent partner was a spouse, or now we're going through a divorce, or whatever we're going through, and we have a child in the mix as well. So now I'm not only trying to heal myself, but I'm trying to be there for my child as well. And there's a lot of hurt feelings with the ex, and it's been Mars energy against Mars energy to begin with, and now we're not even trying to be together. So now it's just Mars energy against Mars energy, and now both people are trying to stand up for their personal self-love boundaries even more, and instead of doing it in a compassionate way, there's just so much hurt and so much pain, because now that person's not even there, because it used to be deflect and attack, and then that person would come in and comfort them, and that person would come in and comfort them after the deflect and attack. But now there's no more comfort either, and so now it's just Mars energy against Mars energy, with no more Venus connection with others energy being built to water back anymore. And so where you have to parent ourselves in that way and become our own compassionate, trustworthy, self-accountable parent guide, and do our shame reduction work and walk our shame rings of power to Mordor and toss them in the volcano of doom. So essentially what that means is it's going to be a journey, and the best thing, my ex and I, we did a really it was his idea, so I have to give him credit for that, but I'm really happy with the way we went about it, and I would recommend this for other people. Is we honestly just put our we did separating while together for a while before we actually separated, and so we kind of got used to that idea of separate but together, because even if we're not together in a marriage and we're running our individual lives, we're still going to be separate but together, because we're married for life through our daughter. And so essentially understanding that concept and working out what that dance is, and understanding this is a lifelong thing, and we are separate but together, and understanding the healing journey is first about recognizing I was a victim, and then doing my shame reduction work, working through the 12 steps, understanding the dynamics of narcissistic abusive behaviors and tendencies. So the deconstruction of self, of false identity of self, and that's the death, and then that allows for the rebirth of more solid centering and true essence of self, whether that be through, study of one's natal chart or human design or whatever your choice of preference is, to cultivate that more solid identity in one's essence, in one's energy, in one's being, meditation, to function more from the I am and make choices from there. So essentially, allowing for a building from the bottom of, who am I? And in order to self-love, we have to know what the self is, and we have to know what love is for us, like truly in essence, totality, and what the self is for us. And then once we understand the self, we understand love, and we understand this is, self-love. This is what the self is to me. This is what love is to me. Put them together. This is what self-love is to me. And by default, now I can understand from this foundation how to love other self. And then from here, I can stand up for my personal self-love boundaries and use my Mars energy to communicate my needs and wants and desires and who I am, my gifts, my personal self-love boundaries, my, all of that kind of stuff. And that can be the focus for both individuals. And then, as those foundations become firmer, now we can reinitiate very slowly a new dance with each other, with personal self-love boundaries in place, being pillars. And so I wanted to note, like, a lot of times in a love addict, love avoidant tango, one's a love addict, one's a love avoidant. So one person does more of the mental, emotional, spiritual work, and then the other person is just more the love addict, usually, from what I can tell. And then the love avoidant person is more a covert narcissist type, and then they usually do more of the physical stuff. Because the covert narcissist actually has a little bit more shame than the love addict, and because the love addict is more on the mental, emotional side, but they're not very good at the physical stuff, like the taking care of the finances and house stuff and all that kind of stuff. And it's because they're doing so much mental and emotional work, and that's what they were trained to do by their parent as a child. Whereas this person this one's, I would say, a little bit more, it's kind of almost like the scapegoat and the conformist child meeting. And the conformist one is the one who's more covert, and the one who has more shame and does more of the physical things because they abandon themselves to serve others. And so they don't do the mental and emotional work because, like, they serve others physically, and to do that work they put it on other people, like scapegoats. So then they choose a scapegoat person as a partner, love addict. And so then when they separate, both of them are suffering fairly, like, dramatically, because the covert person, they'll usually be a little bit more, they're gonna trauma bond again, like that's what happens, because they don't do that mental and emotional work for themselves. So they literally need that person, and they have more shame, so they just go trauma bond. Like they don't introspect. They'll go trauma bond again, and they'll go start, a new family or whatever, and basically focus on the physical side of things. So that person might actually be a little bit better at taking care of the physical side of things for the child at first, and then this person who's the love addict will do a little bit more mental and emotional work and heal, but then they're not taking care of themselves very well physically, because the love avoidant, the more covert narc with the more shame, like they did that stuff for the overt narc who's the love addict. So then when they separate, this person looks like they don't have their shit together and this person does, but this person actually has more shame. And this person's doing the work to heal, so that, you know, both of them literally have to parent themselves in order to parent their child and parent each other, because they're coming from opposite ends of the spectrum of that expression of shame. So this person's shame is in the areas of taking care of themselves in the physical realm. This person's shame is in the areas of taking care of themselves in the mental, emotional, spiritual realm. So they both have a lot of work to do. And so they both need to parent themselves. And it's opposite, and it's really easy to point fingers and be like, well, this is what I'm good at. I'm doing this really well, and they're not doing that very well. And then this person's like, well, this is what I'm good at, and I'm doing this really well, and they're not doing that very well, because we value what we're good at. And so, yeah, like, both people are going to think that the other one's shit. And of course, they have hurt feelings, and hurt people out of the victim mentality. And they say, like, well, you know, she's not doing shit to raise her kid. And, you know, oh, you know, he's a deadbeat baby daddy. He's not doing shit to raise his kid, and he doesn't care. And it's just like, you're literally just adding fuel to the fire. Stop pointing fingers at each other and start pointing the finger at yourself, and do your own shame reduction work. Work the 12 steps. Learn about, you know, decondition from your false identity of self, and, you know, allow yourself to commit suicide to your false ego self and be reborn. And do it this time with, you know, standing up, understanding what the self is, and standing up for your own personal self-love boundaries, and do it in a compassionate parent love way, which you can only cultivate and learn by doing it, by parenting your own self through that deconditioning work. So, a lot of healing needs to take place for both people, and this is pretty challenging to understand for both people, but it does need to happen. And one person or both people need to initiate it. So the smoother we can make that transition and understand that it truly is both people that need to do the work, and not just one. There's not one person who's more narc, or there's one person who's more whatever. Like, no, you're both immature as shit, and you both need to do work. So like, do that work and raise yourself so you can be there for your child, and be a, you know, compassionate, trustworthy, self-accountable parent guide for your child, both of you, and say sorry to your children, and put healthy personal self-love boundaries up with your children, and allow them to put healthy personal self-love boundaries up against you, and don't deflect an attack on them when they do so. So, yeah, it's a dance that we have to do with ourselves first and foremost before we can do with others. So pointing fingers doesn't help. All right. Take care. Have fun. Bye.